Paradise, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking some time this morning.
Thank you for having me here. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Let's jump right into some of our questions. I think first question I always like to ask our guests is what first drew you into ABA and what led you to kind of challenge and rethink some of the more traditional approaches within the field?
Well, I was first drawn to ABA because as a kid, didn't really have a safe environment to grow up in or to
Mhm.
play in. So I saw the science of ABA as a fun way to create those safe environments that I missed out on. So, in a very real way, when I'm on the floor playing with a client, I'm healing my inner child. And then I started looking at the traditional approaches and challenging them and wanted to move away from controlling behavior and just creating a place where a child could play.
I love that. And I think that it makes a lot of sense. I think if a lot of these CBAs took time to enjoy the play that they're doing with their kids, they might do better. Yeah. So you speak pretty openly about decolonizing ABA and addressing a lot of the systematic issues. Where do you think the field still has kind of the biggest blind spot today?
I think the biggest blind spot is how we interpret professional neutrality. Sometimes it can lead to silence around systemic issues, but some of these are directly impacting the families that we're working with, whether it's this conflict or displacement or systemic inequalities. So I think just acknowledging those outside of the home, outside of the clinic, and how they shape the child's sense of safety.
I love that. I love that. It's super relevant. I think a lot of people are scared to engage in any kind of social or political discussions, but they're relevant, right? That is what the kid is hearing all day long at home. That is part of the life. So you balance clinical work with advocacy and cultural awareness. What have you learned about delivering care that is both effective and also truly respective or respectful of individuals and the communities that you're serving?
I really look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs and making sure that the goals I create are feasible and realistic for the family. I have to make sure that the child's foundational needs are met for safety, regulation, and belonging before we can even push them to learn or meet a goal. So, meeting the mat and changing the plans, I think you have to be okay with that too.
Absolutely. Can you talk a little bit more about how you involve kind of cultural awareness and cultural sensitivity into the work you do?
Yeah, I think just asking the families, during the assessment, what holidays they celebrate, what's
Mhm.
important to them, making sure that I'm choosing goals that are socially significant to them. My family comes from a Catholic and a Muslim background, so I'm very making sure that I cover a lot of my bases with them and trying to investigate what's important to them.
I think one interesting just example of that I've heard before is I was interviewing another guest and they mentioned specifically, they said, co-sleeping is much more accepted in some cultures than it is in others. And so for
Yeah.
some clients, they won't sleep in their own bed is a real problem. And for others, that is not something that we care about. We're just focused on whatever. A more diverse diet. That's really all we care about. He can sleep with me as long as he needs, which is I think really interesting. So, as a marketing agency that specializes in this space, we always ask some marketing questions. Tell me what works best for you right now in terms of gaining new clients.
Honestly, we don't really rely on traditional marketing. I'll go on Facebook or TikTok and try to find like where I would find jobs. So that's pretty much how I would gain new clients.
Okay, yeah, yeah, makes sense, makes sense. And what is one marketing tactic or marketing strategy that you're maybe just watching in the marketplace right now?
I think just the discourse online with ABA, we're hearing a lot from neurodivergent individuals. So
Mhm.
really being open to hearing that conversation and hearing that feedback and adjusting our approach according to that feedback because our field does have a sketchy, harmful past and, we want to do better for them.
Absolutely. It's all about actually serving the kids now, like in reality, not in whatever the reality that was true 20 years ago.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your insights. And I know that you're making a real impact on a lot of the families that you're working with as well. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.